something that's changed in the last couple of years because the NCAA has allowed for additional staff members, kind of that ops role and recruiting and have kind of got melded into one. What all specifically do you do there at Furman?
Yeah, that's a good question there. So obviously, with that role being molded all into one, it's provided the opportunity for me to do a lot of things, which is great at my age. I've gotten to learn, be quick on my feet, and I've gotten to go out on the road, and have some recruiting experiences. I have, I've done all the operations from travel to now in this world of NIL, right? Trying to raise some money, right? Trying to work on our new facility that will be done the end of August, working day to day on not only our team schedule, but coach's schedule. And then at the same time, working guys out on the court, because that's, like you said, that's legal now. And that's part of something that is expected of me, to have a group of guys that I can connect with on the court and show them, our way of player development and get them better at the same time as handling all the other responsibilities.
One of the things that you do a great job with there at Furman is recruiting. And I get the question all the time from high school players and coaches who are trying to help their players. What are college coaches looking for? So I'll ask you, what are you guys looking for in these players and from these players?
We're looking for somebody who's smart, somebody who's tough, and, someone that wants to be at Furman, right? I think that's something that we have to take a lot of pride in now more than ever, just in the world of the transfer portal and NIL and blooming where you're planted and staying where you are, in this landscape. Staying somewhere 4 years is not the cool thing or the easy thing to do. But if we could have someone that tells us through the recruiting process that they want to be here, they want to go through the academic piece of Furman, they want to do hard things, that's something that sticks out to me and sticks out to our staff, more importantly, when we're recruiting high school kids right now.
Kind of connected to that, but coaches will also ask about getting their players just simply on your radar. Any suggestions for that?
Coach Miller can attest to this, but we get a lot of emails throughout the day. There's email after email. Hey, recruit my son, recruit my player, whatever it is. And those are great. And there's good information in there that we can see, video clips and such. There's nothing better than, for me, a text and a phone call are much easier for me to respond to. I'll say that first of all. But at the same time, showing your interest in Furman is more than just sending the email that says, hey, coach, that you've sent to 50 other people. You can kind of sniff that out when you're looking through emails and stuff like that. But I think just to be on the radar, you have to do something that's, a cut above everyone else that you're watching, right? You go to a high school game, you go to an AAU event, and you're looking for those things. What is sticking out in this player that is that looks like a Furman guy, and we call it a OKGR kind of guy. So we're looking for that with how they carry themselves, with how they walk, how they talk, what their social media looks like. That's a big thing now. We're sifting through that. Is there stuff on there that doesn't represent who they think they are or what we would want them to represent when they're here with us?
Talking about building a competitive roster, you alluded to the other factors that have now influenced college basketball, and that's really become kind of like a complex puzzle to put together nowadays. How have you all gone about balancing the veteran experience that you need to win at the college level, but then also bringing in and developing younger talent?
Yeah, no, for sure. So last fall, I guess this time last year, we were on the cusp of signing 5 high school kids, which is, abnormal in this day and age, like we talked about. But at the same time, we returned 7 veterans, or upperclassmen at this point, which means we only went and got 1 transfer in Asa Thomas from Clemson, who we recruited out of high school. So we had a relationship with him, with his family, and even his college coaches at Clemson, where he was before. So he made the skip down 123 and made it down to Furman, and he's been awesome. But that was our only portal addition, right, in this new landscape like we've talked about. But yeah, I think that competition, right, we've been dealing with, we've got basically 7 old guys and 5 new guys, right? And it's like, sometimes we see a clash, but I think that's also built and brought the competitive juice in practice, right? These young guys want to show that they belong, and that they're, that they can stand up for themselves and go hard in practice every day. And that's really been good for us. And it's shown those old guys, the veterans, that, hey, we have to bring it every day too.
I've had several of the guys on show film and video breakdown of what you guys do there at Furman, and it can be sometimes some rather complex concepts for the players to grasp. I think even some of the younger players coming in, no matter what background they've had, the amount of things that college teams run, and I know that you guys run, just being able to hold all of those things. But how do you train them early in the development phases here for you guys in the summer, for the rest of us early fall, to really like accelerate their understanding and learning? And in particular, if you think of anything practical in regards to, even I think even you guys do a great job with terminology and helping them kind of understand the concepts as well, but those kinds of things just to help them grasp the offense in particular.
Yeah, for sure. No, I think that goes back to the type of guys we recruit. We want to recruit competent, smart, just guys that are going to be able to pick up our stuff. And we do accelerate it through the summer because we're here for 8 weeks, which obviously at the Division I level, we're able to do that. And that's where we spend time in the film room. And, ironically enough, I didn't bring any film to show because I was lucky enough to be in this system and program for 4 years as a player. And, and now going into year 2 as a coach, some of this stuff goes in my brain all day, every day. When I'm trying to go to sleep, I'm thinking about our terminology, right? And it's just that goes to your point about how we've been able to use that terminology, accelerate our offense, right? And even just, try to make it to where it can't be replicated. And I think that starts in the summer because the terminology is important. Our guys bring a notebook to film every day, probably watch close to 45 minutes to an hour worth of film, or at least talk through what we're doing. We draw up on the board what's going on. We talk through, why we're doing this, because if you know why you're doing it, how to do it becomes a whole lot easier. So I think that's really good for especially all the new guys that we have. Sometimes when we're in study hall, we might talk a little bit basketball during study hall as well. So it's a good way to study your concepts and what we're going through each day on the practice floor.
Talking about the film, you mentioned it. 45 minutes to a lot of people may sound like a really long time. And you guys record a ton of stuff. I've seen you personally, even depending on what time of the year it is, over there manning the video recorder.
Yeah.
What do you do with all of that as a staff? And then you also mentioned showing it to the players, but kind of all of that, how do you really use that to maximize that part of it?
Yeah, so something that these, especially these young guys, which is something I hadn't really seen before, they're trying to eat this film. I mean, as soon as practice ends, I hit the button to stop the recording. Coach, can I get the film? Coach, can I get the film? And I think that breeds the type of player that we want, like we've already talked about a couple times, but it's just like, they want to learn. And going to our coaches, I think, when practice ends, we each have duties. We go through and watch the bucket that you're looking after, right? Whether it's rebounding, whether it's shooting, whether it's, different reads coming off ball screens, and hey, I'm watching the point guards. Are they making the right reads? Are they making the right pass in this specific instance? And we stat practice at the end of every day. So, you go from an hour of film, then you go to an hour of practice. And then after that, you're coming back to stat each individual person and each possession, right? And that can take some time. But then we have this data from 8 weeks of summer. We've got data of winning and losing, shot percentages, rebounds, assist to turnover ratio, so on and so forth. And, being able to watch that back and say, hey, look, this guy's a cut above everybody else in this area. Can we encourage other guys to pick it up, right? Rebounding. Hey, we've got 3 big men here, and this guy's here, this guy's here, and this guy's here. What can you do to get to their level? Can you go chase down balls every day? Can you make it a point before you step on the practice court that I'm going to go rebound today?
You may be able to speak to this just from being the player to the coach. I'll speak to it just from being the coach. My conversations have changed because I have so much information now. It's become very data driven and less emotional, my opinion versus the player's opinion or what they think about things. The players now, I can give them something they have something tangible that they can see, a number that they can see. I've got to go do this instead. Do you guys talk with them one-on-one with stuff? How do you go about doing that, and how does that change the conversation?
Yeah, we have player groups that each coach is set up with, let's call it 3 or 4 guys. And, when they meet with them one-on-one throughout the week, they've got clips for them. They can show them those clips, but then they can also show them the stats. And, hey, this is where you sit, among the team. And we'll show that in the team film as well. We're not afraid or, scared to put it up in front of everybody and say, hey, look, this is where you are. But I think, like you said, it does change the conversation. And you get to say, hey, look, this is where you are. You're shooting 28% from three, right? I mean, there's nothing that number can say. I think it's, we talk about objective data versus subjective data, right? And it's, like you said, you get to bring them into your office and then, hey, look, this is what it is. The data shows it. And we're analytically driven, but, obviously there's times where you have to use the eye test still in basketball because that's always how it's going to be. But there's analytics that stick out to us that we're looking for, whether it's, and then there's deflections, right, that can't be statted by synergy or huddle or whatever it is after practice. There's different things that can't be seen, like diving on loose balls, taking charges, so on and so forth. So I think those are things that eventually stick out over time across, 23, 25, 30 practices that, it just shows the difference in where you stand.
I don't want to get you in trouble with Coach Ritchie, but without giving anything away, you all have some changes with defense coming this year. How have you balanced the teaching of the offense, like we just talked about, where they have a lot to learn in eight weeks,
yeah,
but then you also have some differences in defense that you're doing? What does that do in regards to the shape of practice and even maybe the teaching that's involved?
Yeah, no, I will say, obviously this is out on the web, but Coach Joe Pierre has joined our staff from Liberty. He was there for 7 years and ran the defense there with Coach Richie McKay. So he is now our defensive coordinator, and in turn, we've seen a lot of new things, right? And he's been at a place where they've been highly rated in defense over the last 7 years when he's had it at the helm there. And he's done a great job with our guys. He's teaching new terminology, right? Which goes into these guys having to learn, because now you've got veterans who they thought they knew what we were going to say when we switch a ball screen, when we hedge a ball screen, when we put two on the ball and then recover. He's got different ways to go about it, and it's new for those guys, whereas the freshmen are all on level playing field with that. So, yeah, I think, the defense is really, we want to hold our opponent to 70 points or below because we're trying to score 80 or above, right? If we could have a perfect game, we would love to win 80 to 70 and get on the bus and go home. So I think, taking the three-point line away in a league where there's more three-pointers shot than in any league, I think that's something that, we can say that, right, in the middle of summer. That's not that's not giving anything away to an opponent or anybody. That's what everybody wants to do. So there's definitely things that we've done. If teams watch film on us last year, we had a curveball, right, in the 1-3-1 that we would throw out every once in a while when we needed a shakeup, and we ran it in the championship game against Wofford and obviously came up a little bit short, but that was something that stalled them out for a little while offensively, and just finding, new ways to be creative and basically, get the ball from the other team.
Did you start teaching the 1-3-1 in the summer, or was that something that was introduced later on?
We've had the 1-3-1 back when I was playing, and when we had guys like Jalen Slauson, Noah Gurley, Clay Mounts, Garrett Heen even, who was there for all of them. But, yeah, we did not teach it in the summer. And then I would say maybe December, maybe January, we said, hey, look, let's throw the curveball now, right? And we went out there a couple days in practice, and this just goes to show, Coach Ritchie's mind and how his brain works, and also how good he is at putting the message across of, hey, look, we're going to need this at some point. I don't know when it's going to be in our back pocket, but we have to practice it, and we have to sharpen the saw here and know that when this comes up, like it's going to be helpful for our team just with our length and with someone like PJ Smith in the bottom of the 1-3-1 in the warrior spot, if you will. I mean, he's down there, and he was a warrior, and so we had guys that made that work for us. And, it's funny, to your point, I know you've seen us in the summer and played against us and coached it and, done it all, but just to have not done that in the summer and then just kind of pull it out of our back pocket, I'll say, to keep it PG, we pulled it out and it worked for us.
This can be a surprise to everyone. Surprise to your staff that it actually works. And a surprise to the other coaching staff as well. A question that I do get from coaches: structuring of practices. They want to hear about, do you have a offensive segment and then defensive segment? Do you intersperse things? Is one thing emphasized during one part then while another part is for another? How do you all do that so that you can maximize your time but yet fit in everything in?
Yeah, I think that goes back to my my educator days. We go part whole, so we start every day with finishing every single day. Anybody who knows us, anyone who's seen us practice, any of our competitors even know that that finishing is what we hang our hat on. Finishing school is a segment that we start every practice with, where we go through the different finishes, and we probably spend 10 to 15 minutes a day on that. And there's ball handling component to that. There's a finishing component to that. And there's a getting juiced up for practice component to that leads you into first part, which is normally defense. We'll have a defensive segment, whether it's 3-on-0, 3-on-3, and that's what Coach Pierre has brought to us. Some good stuff, some good drills to get us going defensively. And then after that, we will walk through some stuff, maybe a little bit of 5-on-0 offensively, and then the whole will play the rest of the day to finish up practice and try to put it all together.
Earlier, you said the competitiveness exists between the older guys and the younger guys, but if there's not a natural stimulator for competition, what do you do to encourage that?
Obviously, we try to keep teams right positionally, right? You have to play based on position, and that's how you separate the teams. But because we stat winning and losing, there's a if you're on the quote unquote winning team or the losing team at the end of the day, and where your percentages are, because these guys, they just eat, sleep, and breathe it. They want to know, am I winning? What's my winning percentage? Where am I at? Where do I stack up against everybody else? So sometimes we pick teams based off of these stats that we have data on. So we'll pick the first 5 winners, right? And then the next 5, I'm not going to call them losers, but the next 5 winners. So we'll go 1 through 5 and then 6 through 10. And you would think, right, that team with the top 5 winners would win every time. And most of the time that reigns true. And then there will be days where we go based off 3-point percentage, and we see, hey, the top 5 3-point shooters, what does this do in a game of 5-on-5? The guys with the top 5 in deflections, right? And we play different games based on the stats and the data that we have to see what results it creates.
In regards to drills, I think all of us end up having some favorites that we use on a regular basis. You guys have any go-to drills that you use frequently?
I'm a defense guy. I know I work for an offensive-minded coach, but as we all know, defense wins championships. And just working with Coach Pierre and learning from him, and trying to take some stuff from him. We've got a one-on-one drill that I may have video of, but we called it killer thirds. So you split the court up into thirds, and we have tape running all the way down the lane lines. And basically you're one-on-one with your guy starting on the baseline, and you've got 3 seconds to get from baseline to that third. And then, if you are stopped, you get a point. The defense gets a point. But if you cross the line, the offense gets a point. And then you're in the next third of the court, and then you slide to the next third of the court. So it's something we'll have to pull out next time you're at practice.
No, I like that. Is there any shooting drill? Coaches are always asking for shooting drills. Anything that you guys have used recently?
Coach Estep, he does a really good job with that. He was at Cedarville for 20 plus years, and they shot the heck out of the ball when he was there.
Mm-hmm.
So he's brought a lot of that to us. The biggest thing I can say on the shooting drills is, if you're not getting game shots, it's a waste of a shooting drill. I would say, even if you play a game to 8 or 10, whatever it is, like even if it takes more time to get the rep in, a lift 3, right? You're lifting from the corner to the wing, and you're shooting at 3, and you're getting your hips around and knocking down the shot, right? And you're competing against the 3 guys or 4 guys on the other side that are doing the same thing. So, the competitive shooting, trying to beat the other team to the number, those are always fun and good because it breeds competition. But I would say, like I said, if they're not game shots, it's fun, right? And it's great, and there's great shooting drills, but the ones that create game shots and get you those reps, especially in the summer, right? There's never a bad time to get game shots. So those are always good. Yeah, definitely just in some individual workouts, one-on-one, some guys will do. We have a drill called Celtic drill, which is probably pretty worldwide at this point, but making 2 shots in a row at 5 spots. You make 2 in a row from the corner, then you lift up to the wing. You go to the top of the key and back around, and you want to see how many spots you can get in 2 minutes. So that's a good one. That's probably my favorite one.
I'm actually going to end this now, and the drills, some of them that you just gave me, I'm going to get from you, and I'm going to make those available at another place. So people have to contact me or be paying attention to my social to find out where they can get those.
Yeah, I can. I've got videos on some of those that I can get to you. So that'll be
perfect.
Good. Yeah,
perfect. You're doing a great job, And
Thanks.
between the core you guys have got coming back and some of those new guys and a newly renovated arena, I know this is going to be an exciting season. So I'm happy for you and appreciate you taking the time to come on the show.
Yes, sir, Coach. I appreciate you, and just thanks for having me on, and love talking basketball. So that's what we do.